Morning, Ange.
Morning, Dee. So we made it to Friday. I want you to be authentic. How's your week?
This is me checking in with myself like I talked about. I want to give the authentic answer.
Doing a scan.
I'm noticing how my body feels. I'm starting to feel a little friction right here in my chest. I feel like it's been a challenging week.
Would you like to say more?
I just feel like we're doing hard things, and all of this it's not easy. I mean, it's easy talking to you, but the internal work that we have to do and then all the things that come with this, it's a lot of work. And so I feel like it feels like this week has been extra challenging for whatever reason. But it's Friday and we did it. And that's always, after we're finished, it's always just like, we did that.
We did. And I'm proud of us. That's my new phrase lately. I think because it is hard to walk in. We're learning all things new on the outside and how to actually make a podcast and to do it well and do it authentically us.
Yeah.
At the same time, we're talking about things that aren't superficial, and we are working really hard at not just conceptualizing the hell out of things, but to actually think them through. These are conversations we've had at some level for the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
And now rehash those, go back and now speak of them in real time and again, be authentic, even where we're growing and changing and evolving now. We're committed to being authentic.
Yes. Having organic conversations and even giving ourselves like indicators of, okay, this may not be such an authentic conversation or whatever.
Yep. So you mean we're making adjustments as a team?
Always.
To be in alignment with what we believe at our core for the morning share.
Yes. With each other and for the morning share, with the morning share.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've kind of done this even as a brand for the morning share. We've tried to think of what are core values that we think of going forward for our brand. And so trying to continually filter everything we do, content, whether it's on the blog, on the website, in a social media post, or in these podcasts, do those things still align with the things we say are important to us going forward?
So could you recap for us what alignment is?
Yes, I can. It starts with authenticity, knowing who you are and what your core beliefs are, what you believe, what you want, who you are at your core. And then making sure that your outward portrayal and your outward endeavors line up with what you actually believe, between time, energy, and money, and how we expend those. Do those line up with what we say we believe on the inside, who we are on the inside?
Yeah. We left off on Wednesday with a question about what areas of your life are you experiencing that friction, that incongruence? Yeah. So what ways were you conforming? What ways, also identify what ways you are already living in alignment.
So then in light of that question and continually doing a self-scan a little bit to make our own adjustments in the moment, we're looking for ways that our body or our mind or a combination of the two feel out of a line or uncomfortable, or the friction that you mentioned, or you feel uncomfortable, I think, sometimes, and not really knowing what's wrong until you stop for a minute.
Yeah. And for me, I think the indicator is always going to be performance. And the way that I know that I'm performing, it's when the external is yes, but internally it's a big no.
Yeah.
That's one huge indicator for me that I'm not being authentic. I'm not living in alignment. What about you?
I think for me, growing up, wanting to be perfect, and that so easily leads into me performing. And in my case, it is always performing for the approval of others. Like, I think that is a huge motivator for me, is to be accepted and approved of by other people. And so at this stage of my life, I've learned that the question, to what end, when I ask myself that internally, to what end, it may not change the actual outcome of what I do, but the motivator is different. Am I motivated because it's something I really, truly want to do and I can be aligned with what I believe about myself, what I believe about life in general? Or am I doing it to perform and conform to what I think somebody else expects of me?
Yes.
The action may be the exact same. It's just why I'm doing it. The motivation behind it changes. That makes me feel aligned or misaligned. Because then if somebody doesn't give me the approval that I want, that's an indicator too, and I'm sad about that. That's an indicator too that I was doing it more for their approval and an external kind of
validation.
Exactly.
I've got to read you this quote. I was scrolling on Instagram last night, probably way too late. But I came across this, so I'm so glad I was scrolling too late.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was worth it, huh?
Yeah, for sure. And it's about boundaries and the outcome. And it's by a lady named Nadia Adesi. They said, quote, "I'm tired of setting boundaries that people just walk all over." I answered, "Then they're not boundaries. They're demands you're hoping someone else will follow. A real boundary isn't about getting someone to change. It's about deciding what you'll do if they don't. It's a personal limit you follow through on. It sounds like, if you keep raising your voice, I will leave the conversation. Not, you need to stop talking to me like that. Boundaries aren't about control. They're about protection."
Wow. Good stuff.
Isn't that so good? But when I read it, I was like, that's exactly what we were talking about.
It's not about controlling. It's about protection.
Yes.
Because you know yourself well enough. You believe in yourself well enough. And you love yourself well enough not to continually do whatever that is. And you really love them enough. I mean, I think that's it. That's it. Again, we tell our children no. We set boundaries for our children because we love them, because we want them to be safe. And so yet all of a sudden when it applies to us setting boundaries for ourselves, do I not love myself? Isn't that the height of love? Is to be able to know what's good for me and what's not good for me. Yeah. And again, this has not been propagated within a lot of our church contexts. This seems selfish, which I think you mentioned on Wednesday, that sometimes when you set a boundary, you feel selfish. Okay, but at some point, who told us that? And at this point, if I can't keep myself safe in some situations and I can't love myself well, then how in the world do I now love other people authentically and well?
Right. Which is the whole thing about, this is why it's foundational.
Right.
You have to know yourself well enough to be able to teach other people how to love you well.
Well, and we had just a real-time experience of this. Yesterday, Deanna and I had spent quite a lot of time together. We've mentioned before that we live in the same space. And we're now working on a podcast together, so we spend a lot of time together. And Deanna is just a ride or die friend for me, and I feel so safe and comfortable around her. But there are still these moments where insecurities in my own self pop up. And we had spent time together, and she was going to her space and I was going on to do some other things, and I told her I loved her, and then all of a sudden I just had this moment of insecurity where I felt like in myself that I was too much, that at some point she was going to get tired of me. And I felt that feeling, and then I said, I'm wondering one of these days if you're just going to get too tired of me. And she affirmed that she wouldn't, but at the same time, it really wasn't about that. I had to notice that in that moment, I felt insecure and out of line with who I know I am. And then that traced back to a fear that I've had for years, that if I allow somebody to really know me, to really be vulnerable in that space and show them kind of all of my cards of who I am, they're not going to love me. And so I'm going to be too much for them. And so that whole interaction was probably 2 minutes at the most. These adjustments that we're talking about don't always have to be huge, painful, like completely upend your life. Sometimes it's just you have to know yourself, then you recognize when something feels off. Really quickly, you do a quick scan of yourself and you identify. And the more verbiage that we build in this realm
Yep.
of self-awareness, of talking about emotions and things like that, the quicker it is for you to have vocabulary to name what it is you're feeling.
Yes, that's so good. And it allows the other person to know you better too, because those moments of vulnerability, it gives me a glimpse into the things that you deal with.
Right.
And then, you know what it did automatically when you shared that with me was I have the same feelings. Like at the core and maybe the deepest fears of humanity is a sense of I won't be accepted. So then I turned around and said, I have the same fears. So then it's a shared vulnerability, and then we both leave that space feeling, I think, more loved and endeared to each other than we did before we shared.
Absolutely. Probably shame and fear are the biggest kind of negative motivators within the behavior modification or conformity culture that so many people have grown up in. And that's just a part of our culture in general, I would think. And so there comes this place where you have to decide, are you going to listen to the voices of shame and fear, or are you going to listen to a genuine moment of realignment? They're not the same.
Yeah. Two things you said that I thought were so good was when you stop performing, people may stop clapping. And when you said that, I was like, oh my word, because as a performer, someone who is just learning to be able for my yes to be yes and my no to be no, to think about having to make that adjustment of like, well, when I stop being the person that I think you want, then you may stop clapping. I mean, clapping for me, like championing me.
Appreciating
because then when
me.
you see who I really am, then your claps may go away, and that's terrifying.
Right.
But I think we have to get to the place. I know that I have to get to the place where I have to let go of other people's disappointment.
Right.
The perceived disappointment or the potential disappointment.
Or the drive for validation. That's me. And if you come to my house right now, on my refrigerator, in my closet, and in my office, I have pieces of paper that have mantras or sayings on them. And one is that I'm enough and there is enough with or without other people's validation. And so that's how I'm systematically trying to break the cycle of how my mind, the neural pathways in my mind that I have formed,
Yep.
that I have to do it this way because I crave people's affirmation of who I am and what I've done.
Yep.
Can I do it simply because I know that was the right thing?
Yeah.
And so, and in our culture today, obviously we're doing a podcast. It's going to be on social media. We're going to depend upon your comments, your interactions with us, your responses, your affirmations, or your feedback. We're counting on that. We've built a culture of interacting to look for a positive, but that still doesn't negate, at the end of the day, when we turn off the lights in the studio, when we do whatever, go to bed at night, can we know that we did what we set out to do?
Yeah.
Were we true to our values, our core values?
Yes. Because if we're not, this way of conformity, this way of living misaligned really, for me, tends to build up resentment. And that stacks up very quickly. And then it's just completely unhealthy because then I start resenting everybody in my life that I'm performing for.
Right. Right. Wow. That was a lot.
So maybe you find that yourself in a place that I feel like I've recently been, where you're identifying, okay, I'm not living from an authentic place. I'm not aligned. What are the steps I have to take? You may have to have the conversation with people in your life of, I haven't been living authentically. I just did this months ago with a dear friend. And it wasn't, I mean, it was hard in the sense of it was vulnerable. And I felt like there was risk involved. Not that they would walk away from me, but just like after, decades of friendship saying, I feel like I've been living inauthentically, which means like I feel like there hasn't been honesty between us. That's a really hard thing to say. And it wasn't like there was this major thing to reveal. There wasn't. It was just like, I've had this mask on of like, of not letting my yes be yes and my no be no. And so, but having the conversation was just such a sweet moment.
Right.
I feel like it allowed for more depth in the friendship. And on the other side of that is freedom.
Yes. Yes.
Which is a beautiful thing.
And that's ultimately what we want for ourselves and want for anybody who's willing to participate in this. But I think there is a little bit of a concern that people have used the phrase authenticity to be complete jerks. Well, I'm just being myself. I'm just telling you what I think. And that's led to so many wounds.
And it goes back to your kind of big reveal at the wedding was be true, or
be kind,
be true, be love. And so even if the honesty is a hard thing to say, or you know what I'm saying? Like, even if it is I don't know.
Well, the heartbeat of authenticity is love. Love of myself and love of other people.
For you.
So, I mean, that is the heartbeat of authenticity.
Which goes back to why alignment, why authenticity, why vulnerability, because it is a gift. It's a gift to you and it's a gift to the world.
Yes. And we're all about contributing our best selves to other people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I feel like there's just so much to continually unpack in all of this, but I feel like we've had a good week.
Absolutely. And if we want to flesh out more of this stuff, where can people find that?
They can find it on our socials.
Yep.
Instagram, TikTok, themorningshare.com.
So we have to leave people with something for the weekend.
Yeah,
so
we
they
do.
can keep thinking. What do we leave them with today?
Well, I found another resource online that has been instrumental for me, especially in spaces where I'm learning to say no. It's this guy named Jefferson Fisher. And I just came across this one last night. Not his account. I've seen it for months, but he did this reel or post on how to say no. And it was so interesting because he said, when you say no, don't give a string of justifications. And I'll put the link there, but it's really interesting about just letting no be a full sentence. So that's one resource that might be helpful for those of you who are late in finding it hard to say no.
And so for the weekend, we're going to ask that you kind of continually do scans in and of yourself and begin to find out what are indications even within your own body where you're not living in alignment. You're reverting back to more of a conforming or a performing mentality. And what does that feel like in your body? What does that look like in your actions? And then, shout out and let us know how that experiment goes.
Absolutely. Happy Friday.